First, Omar, you spoke eloquently about how awesome and wonderful the team is, but the same holds true for you. You are the best. And as you come up on your 1-year anniversary, sooner rather than later, another round of applause for Omar. I am also honored and humbled to be with all of you today for a couple of reasons. The first is HITEC makes Accenture better, full stop. We are honored to participate with HITEC, but HITEC simply makes us a better company, a better firm. It makes us better able to serve our clients. It makes us better able to serve the community. And for our people, it makes us better leaders. And so today, what I wanted to spend time talking with you about is leadership and focusing in on leadership and kind of 4 things you can do around leadership that have kind of informed my leadership journey. And as we talk about it, really encourage you and everybody in this room to realize that these are really revolutionary times. Really revolutionary times. And we need all of us, every single person in this room, to step up, to lead, and to bring others up behind us, and to use our voice and our power, not just for the people in this room, not just for the people in our companies coming after us, but for folks that are not in this room. And so that's going to be my challenge to all of us today in talking about the crucible of leadership. So first, good afternoon. Good afternoon. All right, that's a little better. Post-lunch crowd. Got the little sleepies going on. So let's try that one more time. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Excellent, excellent. Little bit of energy. Now, the last time I checked, though, I think I introduced this as revolutionary times. And I think I mentioned we've got to use our voice and have the courage to speak for those in this room, but also those not in this room. So I want to hear your voice one more time, a little bit louder, a little bit more awake. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Awesome. Now that's the HITEC crew. I like it. I like it. So here we go. We're going to go really, really fast. I got a lot to cover. I'm going to share some stories. I'm going to share some topics around what's happening in the world today. And hopefully we'll have fun on the journey as we go through. Okay? Sound good?
Yes.
Sound good?
Awesome.
Awesome. Excellent. Excellent. So here we go. 4 things that I need folks to think about and to do. First, and if everybody can work with me here, put your finger to your eye. Put your finger to your eye. Make them see you. Next, everybody has these wonderful badges that are apparently in high demand. I'm going to be selling mine. I don't know if you know that, Omar. I got a premium on this one coming, so open market apparently. Second, hold your badge up high. Make them know your name. Make them know your name. Third, if you can touch your ear, it always helps to remember things, right? When you both say and do, make them hear you. And last, and maybe most importantly, especially for the people in this room, especially for the people in this room, we have a distinct style of leadership. A leadership that this country and our companies and our communities all need. And that is finally, give yourself a hug, make them feel you. Make them feel you. Okay, everybody with me? See you, know your name, hear you, and make them feel you. So for the first one, make them see you. All right, now where are my cyber people in the room by a show of hands? Cyber folks are in the room. They're in the house. Excellent, excellent. How many folks in the room, by the way, have Netflix? Pretty much everybody. That's what I was hoping for. Keep your hands raised. All right, now here's the real question. How many folks in this room have watched Anna DuVernay's When They See Us? Okay, so what I'm going to ask everybody in this room, and folks, this is hard. What I'm going to ask everyone in this room to do is to have the courage to watch Anna DuVernay's When They See Us. When They See Us, it's on Netflix. It's a multi-part series. It's hard to get through, but it's about the Central Park Five. It's about the Central Park Five. Make them see you. Those of us in this room, every one of us, we have a brand. And the question for each of us, as well as for our communities, because our communities have a brand too, is are we going to define our brand, or is somebody else going to define it for us? And folks, the central message, especially of our times today, is it is usually not a good thing for somebody else to define your brand. And for our communities, in this world today, it's downright dangerous if someone else is defining who we are and what we stand for and what we aspire to be and who we aspire to be. So the story of the Central Park Five, everyone knows, hopefully. It's about 5 young men whose lives were interrupted because they were perceived to be something that they weren't. And they were put away in jail, and the series tells their story. Finally, we hear their story. Okay? When you see that up on the screen, and the reason I was joking with my cyber friends, right? We also think of another series, right? Mr. Robot. Everybody know that series? And for those older folks like me, we might think of Chuck, you know, that old series, the comedy where the guy was a cyber guy. There's also a whole variety of other cyber-related shows, right? But you see that image, and you see that hoodie, and you think, yeah, this is bad. This is somebody coming to do harm, potentially, right? I have a 17-year-old son that I was talking with Omar about earlier. We were talking about teenage years and all that good stuff. I was privileged to go to Harvard Business School for grad school. And when I went there recently up to Cambridge and up to Boston, I was giving a talk at Tufts University. And we all have it, right? Everybody in this room travels and travels too much, and we're away from home. And when you're away from the kids, one of the things you do is sometimes you try to go buy presents for them before you come home, and you try to make them feel better, right? And I have 3 awesome kids, and so I had been traveling too much, and I felt bad and guilty. And I got done my speech over at Tufts, and I rushed back to campus, and I got 3 awesome outfits or pieces of clothing for my kids. And my littlest one, her favorite color is pink, of course, right? And so I get her a nice pink shirt. My next daughter, her favorite color is purple. I get her a nice shirt. And my son, I get a beautiful black hoodie with Harvard emblazoned on it. I get home before the kids, and I'm feeling pretty good about getting home before the kids, and I lay it out on their pillows, and I'm feeling great. And girls come home, they see their gift, I get the big daddy hug, you know, life is good, right? And now all of us dads, we know that hug, right? There's nothing more precious in the world. My son comes home, and he goes and he actually hands back the hoodie to me. He hands back the hoodie to me. And he tells me that his mom has told him he can't wear a hoodie as a black kid in America. At the time, 16 years old. He's 17 now. What do you see? What do you see? Make them see you. You. Don't allow them to define you. A hoodie with Harvard emblazoned on it. And the kid still can't wear it because he's been told by his mom the story that we've all had with our kids about what it means if the wrong folks catch you at the wrong time wearing the wrong thing. Not because of who you are, but because of who they perceive you to be. Make them see you. That picture is taken not so far from here. It's actually a fairly new museum here called the Art Tech House, the fusion of art and technology. And that picture is actually me praying. What do you see? As leaders, we have to control the narrative. We have to change how people see the world and see us, and use our power to do so. Next up, make them know your name. My full name is Martin William Rodgers. Martin is from St. Martin de Porres, from Lima, Peru. My middle child just got back from Lima with her grandmother. My mom is 87 years old, and she and my 15-year-old just climbed Machu Picchu. Yeah, that's pretty awesome, right? And my mom said, my mom climbed it when she was 82, and she said, hey, I got to go now before I can't take the granddaughters up anymore. So pretty cool. So they just got back from Lima, and I'm named after St. Martin de Porres from Lima, Peru. William is actually Guillermo, and my paternal grandmother is from Colombia. Now, when I checked in, folks, you were all out of US stickers and you're all out of Colombia stickers, so what's up with that? I'm still waiting on my sticker. You're not getting the badge till I get my sticker. And Rodgers is spelled Rodgers. And I get pissed off when people misspell my name. And it happens all the time, right? Because there just happens to be this other guy. You know, Tom Hanks did a movie about him. He's actually, you know, one of the greatest educators of our time, Mr. Rodgers. And yes, I have my beefs with the guy, right? Jared is somewhere in the room. I was talking to Jared earlier. Jared, Mr. Rodgers is from Pittsburgh. I'm from Philadelphia. We got that little cross-state rivalry, right? And that brother wore sweaters, and I wear suits. But the real reason I get ticked off is because he spells his name Roggers. And Roggers is our old slave name. And my grandfather, and this is the third class at Morehouse College, my grandfather, who is on the far left, 3 down, added a D to our name to remember, but also to disassociate from that past. We could not name ourselves. And we trace our family tree to a slave plantation not so far from here, in Broadnax, Virginia. We are descended from a slave by the name of Mama Puss Blackwell. And she had some children by another slave on the Blackwell plantation, and she had some children by a ship and bridge builder by the name of Rodgers. Went through hell. And my grandfather wanted to honor that past but also to disassociate from that past, to take back our name. Because he believed that the power to name is the power to define. The power to name is the power to define. And so the question becomes, everyone in this room has power, right? We have power by virtue of the companies we work for. We have power by virtue of the wealth we are creating. We have power by virtue of the education that we've all gotten. And so the question becomes, what will you do with that power? And for whom will you use that power? And for what means and for what ends? The power to name is the power to define. And so the question also becomes, when we look across that room, over in that corner up in the far left, are those just leaky barrels? Or are they weapons of mass destruction? The question becomes, is it fake news? Or is it the Fourth Estate? Is it the Defense of Marriage Act? Or is it bigotry? Is the glass half full or is it half empty? Can my client never change? Or can we help that client change? Very recently, we celebrated the 30th anniversary of an amazing historical event. Anybody know what that was? Just a few months ago? 30 years ago. Tiananmen Square. Tiananmen Square. In China, they have outlawed the term June 4th. Because on June 4th, 1989, students rose up. Students protested. Students took on tanks. Students died for what they believed in, for democracy, for freedom. June 4th, 1989. Those who would protest now, given that June 4th is outlawed, have coined a new term, May 35th. May 35th, for those who would rise up. I talked earlier about having 3 awesome little kids. On the far right is Malcolm. Who's Malcolm named after? Malcolm X. On the far left is Zora. Who's Zora named after? Zora Neale Hurston. And the little one, we took a chance on the little one. That's my baby. We took a chance on the little one. She's named May J. It's named after, and especially for us at Accenture, you know, we put that all our brand behind Tiger Woods. Had a little bumpiness there for a little while. Ooh, okay, yeah. But May J, we took a chance on. We named her after someone still living, Dr. Mae Jemison, who's the first African-American female astronaut. And we figured how much trouble could a PhD in chemistry and physics really get into, you know? So, but why? Why? Because the power to name is the power to define. And we have expectations of greatness for those 3 kids. How will you use your power? How will you use your voice? And for whom will you use your voice? Next up. So, obviously everyone knows the person on the right, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The person on the left is actually from the University of Notre Dame and is one of my mentors, Father Theodore Hesburgh. And one of the key messages I want to leave with you is sometimes what matters more is not what you stand for, but who you stand with. But who you stand with. What you stand for is just words. Who you stand with is actions. And we tend to forget that back in the day, Martin Luther King wasn't always popular, right? People were scared to associate themselves with Dr. King, especially after he came out against the war in Vietnam. And I think it's no accident that Dr. King's seminal remarks when he came out against the war, he delivered on April 4th, 1967. I don't believe in coincidences. And he was shot dead at 6:02 p.m. 1 year later in Memphis, Tennessee. Dr. King, when he came out against the war, he began his remarks just like I began mine. These are revolutionary times. These are revolutionary times. And our only hope today lies in our ability to recapture the revolutionary spirit and go out into a sometimes hostile world, declaring eternal hostility to poverty, to racism, and to militarism. With this powerful commitment, we shall boldly challenge the status quo and unjust mores. We will have a genuine revolution of values. The oceans of history are made turbulent by the ever-rising tides of hate. History is cluttered with the wreckage of nations and individuals that pursued this self-defeating path of hate. We are now faced with the fact that tomorrow is today. We are confronted with the fierce urgency of now. And in this unfolding conundrum of life and history, there is indeed such a thing as being too late. We must move past indecision to action. We must find new ways to speak for peace and for justice. The choice is ours. And though we might prefer it otherwise, we must choose in this crucial moment in human history. Folks, we're in that same moment. Many decades later. Tomorrow is today on any number of issues we want to talk about, especially for black and brown folks in this room. We are faced with the urgency of now. And the choice has to be made today. We cannot wait. We cannot afford for you to sit back and not lead. That's where we are. These are revolutionary times demanding all of us to lead and be our best. Make them hear you. Make them hear your voice. This particular rally was up in Chicago at Soldiers Field. Dr. King called the president of Notre Dame, asking him, would he come stand with him? Because no one else would. All the leaders in Chicago had declined. And so he drove up to stand with him and to stand for his values by taking action. So who do you stand with? Who do you stand with? Who do you use your voice for? Recently, folks, 4 black and brown women called the Squad have been attacked at the highest levels in our land. Recently, at the highest levels of our country, we have pictures where men in cages were not seen, so they could not be heard. La Familia, our family. What do we stand for, and who do we stand with? Recently, at Accenture, we followed up on a commitment to stand with refugees. We previously had planned the UN Summit on Refugees, and we had made a commitment along with 50 other companies and raised over $700 million to help refugees. And one of the commitments we made was here in Washington, D.C., we were going to create an annual event to celebrate refugees as assets in terms of culture, in terms of employment, in terms of arts and education. 300 of our employees created an event at the National Cathedral just a month or so ago, and 5,500 people came to celebrate the least of these. That's who we are, and that's who the people in this room have to be about. Make them hear you. 2 last stories, and then I'll wrap. Obviously, everyone knows the person on the left. I had the occasion of spending an hour with Justice Sotomayor. Make them feel you. And Justice Sotomayor, I'm embarrassed to say, when I went to go see her, I had never been in the Supreme Court. And folks, for those of you that go, the Supreme Court is by design meant to intimidate you. There's marble everywhere, there's alabaster everywhere, there's all these, big presentations on all the history that has been made within those walls. And you got to go through not 1, not 2, but 3 rounds of security to get back to her chambers. When I finally got there, and of course I was getting more and more nervous as I walked, she came to the door to meet me. And we sat down and we spoke for an hour. And we were not interrupted, and she didn't have, one of our crazy cell phones that interrupt all of our conversations. She didn't have her tablet out, she didn't have her computer out, she didn't have her EA interrupt us. And the first thing she did when I walked in, after offering me to sit down on the couch, the first thing she did was offer me coffee or tea and cookies that she had made. Now, I'm Accenture, right? So we do our homework. I had already read her book. She offered me cookies she couldn't eat because she's severely diabetic. It's not about us. Leadership is not about you. We have to be fully present for those around us. They don't care about those phones. They don't care about the iPads. They don't care about any of that. They want you as leaders present with them, fully there. And I'm a nobody, right? But if a Supreme Court justice can spend an hour focused in conversation, surely we can give that to those that are coming up after us. Push up, pull up. We can do that for those to follow. Your presence, especially in our companies, where we lack as much diversity as we aspire to, your presence is a present. Your presence is a present. Last story, and then I'll close. Guy on the right, Juan Romero. Juan Romero was a 17-year-old busboy. 17 years old. And he was working as a busboy at the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. And we only very recently celebrated recognized the 50th anniversary of this event. And for a week, he worked and he got to know, while he was working as a young immigrant, Robert F. Kennedy, who was working from the Ambassador Hotel as his central base as he was running for president. And Kennedy had gotten into the election late, and this was a key moment in the election. Could he come up late, and win the California primary? And that night, on June 4th, Bobby Kennedy did win the California primary, and knew at that moment that he would be elected President of the United States. Juan Romero met Robert F. Kennedy, took food to his room, got to know him during the course of the week, and they became friends. A man about to ascend to the presidency, befriending a 17-year-old busboy. Pretty amazing. For 50 years, all Juan Romero would talk about when asked about Robert F. Kennedy was how he made him feel. Maya Angelou would say all the time, people will forget what you say, they will forget what you do, but they will never forget how you make them feel. And for 50 years, that's all Juan Romero could talk about. How Robert F. Kennedy made him feel. Juan Romero would say, you could tell when he was looking at you that he was not looking through you. He was taking you into account. And I remember always walking out of his room feeling 10 feet high. He saw me. He saw me. Now, folks, the reason that's so amazing is because 50 years later, Juan Romero would tell us Robert F. Kennedy's final words. Because Robert F. Kennedy, after he was declared the winner of the California primary and was going to be president of the United States, was ushered back through the kitchen. And as he reached out his hand, seeing his friend Juan Romero, bullets rang out. 6 bullets. And Juan Romero clutched and held a dying president-to-be. And Robert F. Kennedy's last words, as he lay dying, was to ask, is everyone else okay? Is everyone else okay? That's what leadership is about, folks. It's not about you. It's about La Familia. It's about everyone else. It's not even about just our companies. It's about our communities and our world. It's about those to follow. It's about the HITEC Foundation. It's about lifting as we climb. It's about pushing up and pushing out and lifting up. Is everyone else okay? Thank you very much.